So, how do we want to pick up tonight? Where were we? We were the are you up for more story work tonight, or do you want to do something different?
I can't do the dog. Don't do the
You can't
dog.
do we got to go to
No,
the dog. The very fact that you're
I
resisting.
can, I can, I recall, I think I already discussed, when my aunt, when my father's sister, my Aunt Mimi, who was my second mother, I adored her. I mean, I just had a bond to her that was unbelievable.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned before, she lived with us when I was around 3 years old, and I can remember that. I can remember she would go to Mississippi to see her children who were with our grandparents down there, and then come back on Sunday, and I would just go berserk when she came in. I just adored her, and so losing her was very, very difficult to me too. And we've already discussed that. Same thing in the waiting room. My mother, we were working at the same insurance company. Mother found out she had taken a turn for the worse and asked me to go to the hospital. See how I was already given adult, I was still in college, still given those adult responsibilities. And unfortunately, she was in worse shape than we knew, and died, and her boys and their wives were there, and I was and I was there by myself. And the same kind of crazy thing happened with people on the phone, and like the same people on the phone and me standing there. And that time I cried, baby. That was my Aunt Mimi. Cried. I cried, man. And it startled all of them because all of a sudden they realized, or one of them, I think it was Billy's wife, Barbara, whom I was very close with, very, very close with. And she looked over and saw it and made everybody see I was standing over there crying. And so then did come and talk with me. But I remembered since our discussion, uh, do you want me to go into another phase of this? Remembered after this discussion, uh, that they had Billy, Jimmy, their wives. I guess mother was at this. I do not remember my mother there, but I would think she was there. They went over to go through the house and my aunt's clothes really quickly to me. Right now, it may not have been at all, but it seems so quickly. And I was in there watching them, and it was like a dagger went in my heart. And I just went outside in the backyard, and she had a small little fish pond in the backyard, and I just sat by the fish pond and watched those little fish and cried. I just couldn't take it. It was too soon for me. Now see, okay, so I was probably a sophomore in high school. So daddy died my senior year. So we're talking 3 years at the most after my father died. And it was just too much for me.
Mm,
Jeez, Louise. It's terrible.
yeah, because you
And
had a
and to
real
see
strong
see
connection to her.
see people talking about, I want this and I want that, and I was just like,
Mm,
oh, I can't.
mm.
No, let me out of here. So I just went in the backyard.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Somebody did come, saw that I was out there and came. I believe it was my cousin Jimmy's wife, but I can't be
Mm.
sure. But it was more than I could handle.
Yeah, the thing that strikes me in all of these memories is that you're just not considered. Your personhood is not considered. Like,
And or I do believe that's true. And also, everybody just had me as an adult now. I was considered adult. I was supposed to handle things like an adult. Um, and I was still a kid inside.
Well, even as an adult, sorry, um, it's just real insensitive to start getting rid of someone's
It seemed
stuff.
real quickly, but I don't know that that's true. And they probably, no, I was fixing to say they were going to sell the house, but I think the house was given to my cousin Jimmy and his wife.
Was
So
that
they had
Jimmy's?
to clear
Was
it.
that his
They,
mother? Was that?
yes, that's Billy and Jimmy's mother.
No,
Yeah,
Jimmy's mother. Okay. Is that on your dad's side or your mom's side?
dad,
Dad's side.
my dad's side.
So two significant people from your dad's side, your dad and his sister.
Well, the same year that my father died, his brother died of a heart attack. The same day Kennedy was killed, November 22nd, 1963, Uncle Gene died.
Wow. So
And
yeah.
I
Now,
think I know I've told you this before. Um, a woman, a mother of one of the students at school, and I guess she had done this before. I don't remember it, but she took me home from school and told me my uncle had died, and she was not supposed to tell me. Mother was waiting for me to get to Granny's house to tell me, and the lady told me in the car. So Uncle Gene died, then Daddy died in 63, I would think, and then Granny died maybe a year or two after Daddy and Uncle Gene died, because I think she just said, you know what? I'm done.
okay, hold on a
Two of my
second.
boys died.
Give me the timeline.
I
First,
wish I
first to die
first
was
my daddy,
your dad,
my dad.
right?
Yeah. Uncle Gene,
Then Gene.
who was the baby of his family. He was 50 years old.
Hmm. And then
Then shortly, maybe 2 or 3 years, I had to ask Billy about this. Granny died,
Granny.
65, something like that.
That was your dad's mother?
Maybe been, yes, may have been 64 or 65. I can't remember. I cannot remember. I cannot remember anything about her dying and her funeral. I can't remember her funeral. It must have really done me in, because I adored my grandmother.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, she was my granny.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that was uh 2 years at the most after my dad died. And
And
is that
then,
right? She probably died around 66.
well,
I don't
anyway,
know.
then Mimi.
Then I started college in 68, and Aunt Mimi died a year or two after that. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. I started college in 64. So it wasn't long after Granny died that Aunt Mimi died.
What year did your dad die?
63. 63.
So we're only
I
talking
graduated
a 2 year span.
and I graduated in 68 from college.
So two
So
to
that's
three years you
four.
lived. That's a lot.
Plus, somewhere in there is my grandmother Harris.
Right.
She's in there. She saw me graduate. I do remember from college. She saw me graduate from college because I have a picture of me in her front yard with my gown on and all that. So she made it through my college graduation, my grandmother and grandfather. And maybe.
So your grandfather used to live down the street from us.
Yeah, yeah, that
Who?
was my yeah, that's my mother's mother and father, Mama and Papa Harris. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is your mom's side. So you had, wow, I mean, that's a lot of loss for a young girl.
Well, see, my grandmother, I may have been, gee, the time I've got those timelines written down somewhere. But my grandmother, all right, so she made it through my college graduation because that picture was taken, and she was the picture taker in the family. Everything we did, there were pictures and pictures. And by the way, I have no idea where our family pictures are. They're absolutely gone. I think my mother may have given them to my brother. I have very few pictures of my family. It's insane. And Mama Harris took a picture of everything besides you going to the bathroom. You know, it was ridiculous. She just took pictures all the time. So, not long after I graduated from college, she had a major, massive stroke.
Mm.
Okay, I remember going to the hospital with mother and seeing her when the ambulance brought her in. It was terrible. And remember, this was the woman that was stricken with rheumatoid arthritis
Oh
when
yeah.
she was in her early 40s. She was, I'm talking a fighter, man. She was a warrior. And when I saw her on that gurney, oh, gee whiz. Okay, I don't know how long she stayed in Birmingham, but my mother's brother, Uncle Doug, who lived in Corpus Christi, Texas, determined that mother could not take care of her. Now, my grandfather is still in Birmingham, okay? Uncle Doug came to the hospital, I was at the airport, had my grandmother transported to a Piper Cub as a paralyzed person and flown to Corpus Christi because he said mother could not take care of her. My mother was the greatest caregiver in the whole wide world. So he flew her out there, and Papa stayed in Birmingham for a long time. I'm sure it wasn't but a couple of years before Mama died, but she was
Wow.
gone to Corpus Christi. That's a long way away.
And the
And
stroke was a
then,
sudden thing.
yeah, she went out to the car, the street you're talking about. They had a big old black Cadillac. Do you remember that?
I
Do you
do.
remember that
I
at
do.
all? Big old 52 Cadillac. She went out there to do something in the car and fell in the street and had a massive stroke.
So all of these
So then
deaths
she's
came as a
so
surprise.
so then she's flown away in that stupid little plane. How she survived that, I have no idea. I'm talking Piper Cub. I ain't talking no. And then maybe 2 or 3 at the most. I need to get these timelines straightened out, but 2 or 3 years after that, my grandfather flew out to Corpus for Christmas with my uncle, got the flu, and of course, Uncle Doug wouldn't let him come back home. Mother would have taken great care of him, put him in a nursing home, what he did not ever want, and he died out there.
Is this your mother's only
But
sibling?
yes,
He's the oldest.
yes, yes, he was.
Mm, wow. So They were just kind of plucked out
And
of your life.
he's a story for another time, but he's, Lord help us.
You're frozen right now. Okay,
But
now,
it went
now,
it went crazy here.
yeah,
Okay,
internet seems unstable, but I did hear you say he's a piece of work. Is another story. Um,
fine.
so a lot of your
Alcoholic. Functioning alcoholic. He was a
mm,
functioning alcoholic.
is he gone now?
Not too many years after my grandfather died, let me see, I was at Alliance, teaching school at Alliance. We had we had an athletic banquet, and since I was a coach, I did not we I had to present things at the banquet, so mother told me to just stay home. Yes, but um
Mm,
he died. His wife died before him. It's just they
wow.
just went ting ting.
Gosh, Judy, so many significant people in your life are just kind of yanked out.
Let's do another period of time. Okay, so I started in the 1990s. I started working at a veterinarian hospital with a
Mm,
guy, and let me see if I can remember this timeline. Um, Probably not going to remember it in order, but Dr. Downing's wife was diagnosed with colon cancer and died real quickly. 37-year-old woman.
mm,
I dearly loved her. We were soulmates. We
mm.
were soulmates. Maybe 2 or 3 months
Wait. I just
after
want to
that,
point out, hold on a second. I just want to point out that's what you
I
just
know
said
what
is
you're
very
going to say.
significant because that was a turbulent time. All this stuff is turbulence and dysregulating, but that was a real turbulent time in your life. And you were not in your home state. You were, in Louisiana and things were not going well. And to find someone who you call a soulmate,
Kim,
that felt like
yes.
a real gift.
Oh, it was a gift. She was a gift. Yes. She
That's
her
pretty significant. So to
she
have
was a
her
gift.
taken away, just it really, it's like, pouring lemon on a paper cut. It's just,
It was just she was diagnosed so quickly, and back then pancreatic cancer, you had a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. She didn't. She maybe lasted 8 months. I don't know. I can't remember, but the same time, around the same time, my cousin Jimmy had a heart attack
hmm,
and was put in the hospital and had open heart surgery.
hmm.
He came out of the surgery, was doing well, and then I believe he got septic.
Oh,
And I remember the last time that I saw Kim, she was at Our Lady of the Lake Hospital in Baton Rouge. I prayed with her and told her I was going to see my cousin Jimmy. And so I had both of them. And then Kim and Jimmy died very not far apart from each other. Not fun. So we come up for Jimmy's funeral, and not long after, maybe a year or two after that, our cousin Carolyn Boyd died of a major heart attack.
a lot of heart issues.
That's why I'm under the care of a cardiologist. At one time in Baton Rouge, they realized my carotid arteries were blocked, and so the doctors did a whole lot of work, and the cardiologist here says that's cleared up now. But rather than having blockage in my heart from my family history, mine was in the carotid arteries. So I'm under the care of a cardiologist here too. So that was Kim and Jimmy and Carolyn. Seems like there were others, but I just can't remember now because I think
Wow.
my mind is exhausted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's wow. That's so many people to lose, so many people that are meaningful to you.
Okay, let me stop and remember when we studied the wall,
Mhm.
all these, some of these, except for Kim and Jimmy and Carolyn,
Mhm.
all those other ones were why I put up the wall. In my mind, and this is, may God be my witness, I believed that anybody that I loved would die. So I decided I can't let anybody get close to me because if I do, then boom, they gonna die too.
Of course, that makes sense.
And then can't remember the year, two, 2002, 2003, something like that. Dr. Downing died of a massive heart attack at 50. He was like my brother to me. He was very personality wise, he was just like my brother. And we fought like dogs and cats in that veterinary hospital because he had he I'd go, I have a brother just like you, so you don't scare me one bit. So just scream, yell, cuss, do whatever. You ain't scaring me. And he looked at me one time, the first time I told him that, and he said, I've never had anybody talk to me like that. I said, well, it's the way it is. You ain't scaring me. So he put me in charge of the office. I was an office manager. He was like a little brother to me. He was younger than I was. So he
Mm.
was like a young brother to me.
Mm.
Uh, it was, it wasn't long after I lost Mother and Buddy in 2000 that Jim died.
Mm.
It was it was it was terrible. It was
Right.
terrible.
So the only
But when I started working there, um, slowly but surely he revealed to me that when he went to school, I don't have anybody's permission to tell this story, but he's not here, Kim's not here, so but he would I know he wouldn't mind. I was a believer. I tried to live a life of a Jesus follower before all the people that worked there.
Mhm.
I didn't go in and pull off my t-shirt and say I'm a Jesus follower, but they knew I was different. And he knew that I went to church. One time he said, "You don't do anything but go to church. You don't have a life." And that just he killed me saying that to me. I said, "You have hurt me saying that to me." Anyway, he began to reveal to me when he went to college. He had ridden with a guy who was a believer, and he trusted Christ. Riding back and forth to the college was about an hour or two out of Baton Rouge area. So he was a believer, but he had kind of pushed that down, went to veterinary school. That's tough. That's hard.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I haven't mentioned it. When I met him, his first wife had died of cancer. Within a year or two, when I walked into that veterinary hospital to buy food. So he had lost his first wife at that point. So anyway, he was a believer, and I saw more and more fruit in his life, spiritual fruit, as I was there. It says my internet connection is unstable. We're kind of having storms and everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then several years after Kim died, he remarried a very strong Christian woman. And wow, he, he started going to church with her. I wish by this time I had stopped working there. I wish I'd known that he was going to be baptized, because I would have loved to have seen that. The dude was 6'3" or 6'4", 250, something like that. I went to Jim's funeral, of course, and the guy who baptized him said, Jim looked at me and said, "Are you sure you can put me down and pull me back up?" Because he was a big guy, Jim. So that was seeing him renew his life in Jesus was worth working there. Besides the fact there were kids working there that were staunch in Baton Rouge, in Louisiana. Catholicism was very, very strong, and there were 2, 3 kids who were strong Catholics, and some of them were in youth groups. They in the Catholic Church, they were learning stuff. But I've seen 3 of them, and I prayed for those kids. I've seen 3 of them come miraculously big time to Jesus. At least 3 of them. I got to baptize Wendy Day. She started going to the church where I was going in Grace Works, and she asked Brother Bill if I could be the one that put her under the water. Whoops. Can
You're
you
coming
still hear me?
through.
Because I've
Yeah,
walked.
yeah.
Okay. So when she asked me, I said, "Look, it's a Baptist church. I don't think they're gonna let a woman baptize." She went to Brother Bill, and he said, "Of course she can baptize you." So I baptized her. Uh, I wore an LSU shirt when I baptized her, because she used to be Mike the Tiger's mascot. She used to take care of Mike the Tiger, Wendy did, because only veterinary students can take care of the mascot. So I probably had a tiger on my t-shirt or on my shirt when I baptized her. One of the just one of the amazing things to be able to participate in. Went to the baptism of another one of them, a girl named Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget, I've told you about Bridget. She's the one who told me she's a chemical engineer. So she would say, Miss Judy, I have a scientific mind, and I appreciate you telling me all this stuff about Jesus and everything, but well, then she met a guy. She started going to church, and I've told you this before. One day after church, my phone rang, and she's on the other line. She didn't even say who she was. She said, "Miss Judy, I met your Jesus today." Are you kidding me?
Beautiful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't teach when I went to Louisiana, because Sonny worked offshore. He
Right.
was gone a month, home for 2 weeks, then he's gone again. And I missed the kids. So God gave me my school kids at a veterinary hospital.
Yeah. It's
So sweet. So sweet.
I think it's important to point out that all of these deaths, all these losses, which left these huge holes in your heart and in your life, didn't take you out. This is the beautiful part of the story is it didn't take you out. It didn't stop you from loving people and caring for people. Because like you said earlier, you had decided anybody I love will die. But Judy, I never saw you stop loving people.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so even with that thought, you still pressed on because you couldn't do anything else because the love of God had gotten a hold of you, right?
It's in my DNA. It's in my spiritual DNA.
Spiritual DNA. But, I look at this grocery list of people that have just been, it's almost like somebody standing with a gun and shooting cans off a fence post. You're just
It's true.
watching
That's how
them.
it felt.
Yeah. It's
That's
like,
how it felt.
wait, I
That's
just
how it
lost my
felt.
dad. Wait, what's happening? Now, Gene, now, Granny, wait, what's happening? Yeah, it's like you didn't even have time to recover before another one came along.
No,
So
no,
there's a
no.
lot of tidal waves, just kind of like you get up and then another tidal wave, and you get up and another tidal wave. It's like you're still up. That's the amazing part of this story.
I'm still up to pick up the ones that are on the ground. That's why I'm still up.
Right. You didn't give up. You've been faithful. You've been faithful. Faithful to your God, faithful to your calling, faithful to the unique way that God has designed you to love and reach out to people. And you've used your pain to minister to others, right? We talked about that last time about, with the same comfort we've been given, we give to others. But I'm sure there's people that'll be listening to this who've had a string of losses in their lives as well. Um, and so I'm thinking the word grief is just like in neon letters in my mind listening to this. Let's talk about grief a little bit. Like, how do you manage that? Like, what would you say now to the younger version of you who's losing all these these significant people?
Gee, I don't know. And look, just to go through that grocery list has wiped me out. I'm telling you. Wow.
It's heavy. It's heavy. So let's sit there in that then. Um, you're remembering significant people in your life, the contributions they made, and then they're taken away. I mean, that could have really soured you. Um, but it didn't.
I can tell you, I can tell you what happened. You've become on a little bitty screen rather than the big screen. Can you see me?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's
Because
recorded
this is
on.
weird. You're just a little bitty.
Oh,
Anyway,
you've probably
so I
clicked
can.
the view.
I'm afraid to. I'm
Oh, you're afraid
afraid
to touch
to
anything.
click
That's
anything.
okay. Nope.
I'll just go with it. I can tell you something that happened in 2000 that enabled me to face what's come after that. In
Okay.
2000, October the 20th, when I got the call from my niece that my brother was dead, uh, I had been attending, prior to the church I was in then, I had attended another church, and on Wednesday night, the pastor, an associate pastor, led the studies on Wednesday night. He would start it every time. God is good. We would say
All the
all the
time.
time. He would
All
say
the
all the
time.
time. We would say
God is
time.
good.
Okay. So my niece Christy calls me and tells me my brother, who was supposed to help me with all of the arrangements for my mother, who was not gonna, at that time, we thought, live very much longer. And in fact, my brother and sister-in-law had come to Baton Rouge in August of 2000 visited my mother. She happened to be in the hospital, as she was often at that time, because she had COPD and she would get to where she couldn't breathe. So they came over, and this is in August 2000. My brother and sister-in-law are driving back home, and my brother says to my sister-in-law, I don't think mother's going to make it to Christmas. October the 20th, 2000, my brother died of a massive heart attack.
Hmm.
So my niece called me, told me that. It's 10:25 at night, and I'm just like, gee. I've already got her in bed, settled down. Of course, I'm not going to tell her something like that at 10:30 at night. I went upstairs, went to bed, and this is a miracle. The only thing, when my mind would think, the only thing all that night and into the morning that would come to my mind is God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. That's a miracle. Your brain doesn't do that. That's God,
Mhm.
Holy Spirit preparing me for what was to come. So it was a peace that I have not sensed a peace like that since October the 20th, 2000. Just, you know, if you've ever been to carnivals at school functions, they have a dunking machine.
Oh, yes.
And I felt like I was on a dunking machine, and somebody hit the little buzzer, and I went down into the grace of God and the peace of God. It totally saturated me and covered me and stayed with me. So when that was on a Friday night, so when early Monday morning, my mother started getting not breathing and able to breathe, all the things I knew to do weren't working. We took her to the emergency room. Um, and then 7:15 Monday morning, mother died. The day I'm supposed to fly out to my brother's funeral. But that piece that got me back there on Friday night, Saturday, never left and enabled me to deal with all we had to deal with. And now that was in 2000. In 2014, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I remember going out of being in the doctor's office. She told me I had cancer. I went down to the car and I thought, hey, you got me through mother and buddy dying. This is a piece of cake. And I just trusted him completely. And that's my standard now. I go back to the peace and the strength he gave me when they died, and anything after that, I know he's got me. And it's changed me. It's just totally changed me.
Wow. Um, do you know when that faded away, or did it fade away?
I don't think it's faded away.
That's pretty
No,
cool.
whenever something hits me, I force my mind to go to 2000, October 2000. And I
How do you do
remember
that?
what
I
God,
mean, are there practical steps for doing that?
oh, I just do it. I just force myself to go back to October 2000. And I remember that night I just described to you
So you just focus
how
in on that moment.
absolutely
Hmm.
God is good all the time. God is good.
Hmm.
And he was just saturating me with that, just saturating me with that. So, and then in 2018, uh, I pulled off the rubber part of a boot like an idiot when I was getting my hair fixed and didn't realize it was all plastic. Now, on that hill where I took the rubber part of the boot off, came home. Of course, I had my hands full. I was going down the basement stairs because I had jail ministry stuff all in my hands. Took the first step on that plastic and really did a tumbling thing backwards, forwards, and backwards down the steps, hit the second step from the bottom, went airborne, and came down on concrete. Broke. I have a compression fracture at T8 to this day. And got me through that, you know. I can't say that I didn't get down and depressed. I did. The pain, oh, mercy, the pain, physical pain, man, was unbelievable. But I remember I was tanking one day. It's in 2018. I have a dear friend in Baton Rouge, Barbara Camp, another soulmate. She understood me spiritually just better than almost anybody down there. And I opened up and shared a lot of stuff with her that I didn't share with other people. So I'm getting really down because the pain is great. I couldn't go to the jail. I couldn't do anything. And so she sends me a text and says, "You really need to listen to this song. This song is for you." And it was Lauren Daigle's Rescue. I sat and cried like a baby and listened to that song all day long, over and over again. And it just, it healed me of whatever was going on. It's in that song, it's God saying, "I will rescue you. I will send an army to find you. It doesn't matter where you are. I will rescue you." That's the tone thing on my. That's how my phone rings
It's your
to
ringtone.
rescue. Yeah, that's my tone.
It's a beautiful song. So now I understand all the more why you love Laura Daigle.
That was early in her career. I had heard her on Christian radio some, and I thought, and she's from Louisiana, so that
Right.
always got me.
Right.
And she sounded like
wow,
Adele. She sounds like she has a voice very similar to Adele. And I remember I liked her voice, but I never, never listened to her songs very much. And man, I bought it. She had two CDs out at that time, so I got anytime one comes out, boom, I get it. She's getting more. She's got a little bent to popular music versus Christian music right now, but it's always got a positive message. I played one Saturday. It's called "Be Okay," and she says, "You're gonna be okay." And she talks about that. I had people in every cell block cry when I played that song. People in jail and prison need hope. They need hope. And that song, I heard it and I thought, they need to know they can be okay. And in the song, she mentions, look up to the mountains where your help comes from. So she's tying it into God, but there's a young woman sitting right beside me when I played it in A1, and she just cried like a baby. And every time Lauren Daigle said, "You're going to be okay," I would look at her and say, "You're going to be okay."
That's really interesting. I was just listening to a song with that title, and I don't think it's by Laura. Can't remember who it's by. on repeat over and over. Just the other night as I was laying in bed, it's so beautiful, and it is. I mean, that's one of the things that we just want to know. We just want to know
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay. I mean, if somebody could just reassure us that, all of our mistakes, all of our losses, all of our heartaches, all of our shattered dreams, it's all going to be, it's all going to be okay. It's,
People that are incarcerated need, start to say two things, but three. First of all, of course, Jesus. They just need to surrender to him. But most of the time, before they can do that, they need love. They need to know their love. And I'm telling you, I can't explain the love that God has put in my heart for those people. It's unbelievable.
right.
They need love and they need hope. And that's the reason I take music in
Mm-hmm.
that presents those ideas a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They need hope. Good grief, you're sitting in there, you're in ugly orange suits. Those things are so ugly. I've told them orange is not my color, so I do not want to be in there. It's just not my color. But they're, and a lot of them, their families have had to step back, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, an addict will wear you to a frazzle, and sometimes for the health and well-being of the family members as well as the addict, they have to step back, and sometimes or many times those stepping back will be used by God to get that addict to the point where they break completely down and realize they need help. So
Mm. Wow.
so
Just,
to answer your question, how do I get through all this? That standard is back there in October 2000.
yeah, but even
If
prior to
God
that,
can get me, if God can give me the stability and strength to lose my mother and my brother 2.5 days apart, then he can do it. He can do it.
so you had an infusion of supernatural power and grace to get through that. And that's something that you hadn't quite experienced before. But
No way.
but now that it's available. And so whatever comes your way at this
That's
point,
exactly right.
and I have
I just go back.
experienced something that I know will carry me through this. And so this doesn't have to wipe me out or
Okay,
shut
my
me down.
battery's running low. You want me to go get a charger real fast?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
Adios.
Okay.
Okay, I had it at 100 when we sat down. So
Yeah, video drains it a lot. Video will drain it a lot. I'm looking up that Laura song.
Rescue is the name.
I know the rescue, but no, the Be Okay one. Let's see,
The wedding. Oh,
Be Okay one.
Oh, Lauren Daigle will be okay. Yeah, it's there. So
Yeah, I'll see it. Um,
it may be just okay. It had because I ended it.
oh yeah, I don't think I've heard this one. That's beautiful.
That's it. That's it. There's one where she has a duet with a girl, and it's better if you can find the duet one.
Okay. I think what I'll do is attach this to the end of our clip.
Okay.
That's really nice, though. Oh, how we need to hear that. Wow, so I have a really bigger understanding of the context of your life just listening to you today. I mean, you're you're basically standing alone. You're the last man standing in your family.
I am in my family,
Yeah,
in my immediate family. And
right.
let me tell you, anybody will tell you when you reach that point where you are the last person in your immediate family, there's this emptiness that you feel. It's heaviness. You just can't believe it. As you said, I'm the last man standing. I'm it, man. There are
Well,
questions about my
hold on just a
grandmother
second.
and
Let me just tell you something. This last man standing, you're, you're standing tall, chin up, chest out. You are finishing strong. You're doing beautiful work. You have last man standing is doing amazing things on this earth. You have not let any of that shut you down. And that to me deserves applause and noticing. It deserves noticing, right? I know you're not comfortable accepting all that kind of stuff, but just let it sit because it's true and God sees it. I see it, and many people do see it. And as long as there's somebody, here's how I'm picturing you. Like as long as you're because we all have walls, right? You read the book The Wall. If y'all haven't seen The Wall, go back and watch The Wall episodes because they were really good, or just go read the book. But everybody that we run into has some kind of wall, right? It could be really tall or whatever. But what I see about you is you notice everybody's walls. You notice where the cracks are. You notice where there's a hole, and you're the one that sticks your hand in, even when,
absolutely.
yeah, because you know what it's like to be on the other side and need desperately for someone to, because you were suffering. It's so much solitude in all of these death stories. There was so much isolation, even though you had family members around. You were so isolated in your grief, and no one really came alongside and really helped you grieve the losses. In fact, they almost did the opposite. Like, okay, let's move on. Let's clean out Mimi's house. Let's get rid of her stuff. And it's like you're standing there with your jaw dropped down to the floor. Like, wait a minute, wait. This was a life. This was a person, and you know that. And so you've turned all of that into some really beautiful ways of operating in this world. And I just want to note that. So let
Thank
it
you.
sink in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, because I'm the one
Sure.
I'm the one that has benefited, and so have a lot of the people that are listening to these recordings. Now I think you did mention when we were talking about books, a book on grief. Did you that that ministered to you on grief and
Oh
loss?
wow. A whole hole in my heart or
Yeah, was
I've
by
got to go
Evans,
I've got to
the
go
Evans
get it.
girl.
Yeah, go look it up.
Uh, let's see.
And here's the deal. Because of these past losses I have had over the years, that book ministered to me more than any I've ever read And it may be that I was just at a point where what that girl said, I understood.
Mm-hmm. I'm not pulling it up, but I want to get that name right. It's pulling me to somebody else. Hole in the heart.
No, it's a whole in the
Hole in,
world, maybe. I don't know.
hang on a minute. What's
What was that girl? What's that girl's name? What
I
was
know
that?
her last name was, or she was Evans. Well, she was related to Rachel. This Rachel held Evans' sister. Is it Amanda held Opelt? Okay, here it is.
Okay.
A Hole in the World, I think is what it's called. Yes, A Hole in the World by Amanda Held Opelt, Opelt.
I like
So,
this girl because she just she is transparent.
mhm,
She tells you the hurts, the questions, the she just and I developed. She studies traditions of people in mourning way back to the
mhm,
present time, and I am still at this point using when I've experienced the death of someone wearing black for a while. She did that when her sister died.
mhm,
You know, it used to be a custom way back in Orthodox Jewish traditions. They still do that. And
mhm, right.
when uh, when my heart child Crystal died, I did that, and I wore black into the jail for a month,
Mhm,
and everybody in there knew what that meant.
mhm, mhm. Beautiful.
She's got some great ideas in there. There's another one. I think it's called View from the Back of a Hearse. Now that's an old book,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm telling you,
Oh
the guy's so good.
yeah.
I may have it by my bedside.
Yeah. It's like doing. Okay, it's by Bailey Joseph.
That's
Bailey.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. View from the Back of a Hearse by Joseph Bailey. A View
And
from a
that's from a
Hearse.
long, that's
Yeah.
from a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
but he talks about he talks about I think his son died, I'm not sure, but he talks about when you're when they have visitations, or as we call it in Louisiana, wakes. He said people would come to him and quote all these scripture verses and tell him, well, God needed them in heaven and all that kind of stuff. And he says, and when that person left, I was relieved. And then someone would come, sit down beside me, take my hand, and sit with me and cry. And I was sorry when that person left.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
all. I'm telling you, when you've lost somebody, to hear, and all things work together for good to those. Oh, please hear me, please. Don't ever tell me that. It's when I'm in a time of grief. Oh,
Mm-mm.
you need
No,
that person to sit down with you,
yeah,
hold your hand, and cry with you. That's what you need.
we don't know how not to talk and give out those platitudes. It's awful. All of them will tell you that. It's almost like you don't, presence means more than anything, right? Just sitting with you in the suffering.
That's all I need, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit there with me. Hug me if you want to. Uh, I
Mm-hmm.
love you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, it's been really a good conversation. Like we said, we never know how it's going to go, but this one was just you sharing, all of the losses. How did it feel even to share that with me today?
Oh, I'm exhausted. And I'm a little overwhelmed. I just didn't, I can remember thinking in years back about how hard it was to have one after another. But then I remember there were more when Jimmy and Kim Downing died, and our cousin Carolyn. There were two more. It usually comes in fives, and there were others in there too. I just can't remember what that was, but it's just
Mm,
tough.
yeah, it's really hard. I mean, especially as young as you were, so many significant people taken out of your life. That's hard to bounce back from. And it's miraculous, and it's the grace of God that's kept you where you are, and helps you turn it into something beautiful, right?
Right.
So that's why I like you. You got depth, you got tenacity, you got that.
I think
I'm gonna cling to the mast of this ship even if it goes down.
there you go, baby. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're still Magnolia.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll
Yeah,
accept that. I'll
a steel
receive
mag.
that. I'll receive
If y'all think she's a steel Magnolia, y'all put it in the comments.
that.
No, that's beautiful. I think that's a really good place for us to wrap it up.